probably just a knob with nothing on behind it. Well, it is time to sell the Honda CB500X to be able to focus on spending money on this old BMW. And today the spending is going to be going and buying some new tyres. So I'm going to get those put on this afternoon at Bike Tyres in Leeds, and we'll have a bit of a ride over there. I'll stick on the action camera on the helmet as we're going, and we'll test out and see how that goes with the sound using the DJI Wireless system. But I'm just waiting now for the guys from Craig's Honda to come up and pick this bike up. They've paid me for it. It's obviously in perfect condition. It's just done 900 miles. And I am taking a fairly big hit on this one because obviously I bought it brand new and then got the top box, etc., and the centre stand. But I just thought the 471cc was not just enough for me, although it is quite a remarkable little bike for what it is, really. So let's wait for the guys to turn up from Craig's Honda, and then we will go for a ride. So we're on the road and we're headed over to Leeds to Bike Tyres in Leeds, where we'll get some new tyres fitted to this old BMW R1150RT. It's the oldest bike I've ever bought, and of course that comes with a whole shopping list of things that it's going to need to get it sorted out. But it's going to be my runabout for this year, and I'm going to be sort of slowly trying to fix issues with it as I find them. And the first issue I found was the non-start issue, and I think that was down to the condition of the battery not being that good and not holding charge. And so I've replaced the battery with a new one, so that's like 100 quid straight into the spending pot. I then wanted to swap the old exhaust, or the exhaust that was on the bike, was an aftermarket Delcovic exhaust, and it just sounded terrible. It really did. I mean, yes, it was loud, but not only was it loud, it just sounded not very nice for this bike. So, you know, no kind of downer on Delcovic, but it's something that didn't suit the character of this bike or the engine sound at all. So I went back to trying to dig out and find one of the originals, and I did manage to find one of the originals. That cost me 220 quid and a drive all the way down to Stoke-on-Trent again, or Newcastle-under-Lyme. So got that, took the other exhaust off, swapped the sensor over and fitted it, and so that was that bit of the bike sorted out. And so that was exhaust and the battery. Then I ordered, because the mirrors on this thing, and this is a longer story, but the mirrors come fairing, come indicator cluster, sort of on these bikes, kind of clip on in a bit of an unusual fashion. They've got like 3 kind of cup petal clips that go over 3 sort of studs that stick out of the side of the other fairing, and you have to literally sort of whack them on and whack them off, and I'm led to believe it's because in the event of some kind of hit or accident, the mirror just comes off. Don't really know why that's a benefit, but anyway, that is what the design of these things is. Now, the only problem with that is that so I'm just checking this thing, see if this actually works. Don't know if it does. I'm just seeing if it adjusts the headlamp. Not sure I'm seeing any difference. It's probably just a knob with nothing on behind it. So I bought 2 new glasses for it with the mounts on the back, and I bought the whole base section which goes inside. that has those new style clips on it, or the new clips on it of the same style. So that the idea is that it would mean I could reassemble them and push them on. The one on the left sort of went on okay, and the one on the right just wouldn't. I couldn't get it to clip on, and I think it's because the studs are too far back into the fairing. If anybody knows anything about these bikes, please do let me know. And I sort of worked out that it looked like you could adjust the studs by screwing them out, and one of them would screw out, and the other two just kept turning without screwing out. So whether there's a nut on the other side. Anyway, so that is something I need to sort out, because at the minute I've just got them taped on, because that one there would literally fall off. And the other thing is, I'm not too sure the glasses on these mirrors either are that securely clipped on, because the guy who had this bike at some point had put loads of silicone sealer around the sort of cup mount thing that clips on. And that silicone sealer, as I had to cut it away to get the old lenses off, left like a bit of a flange which was sort of pushing the clips out a little bit, so it was harder to clip them on. So whether they're secure or not, or whether even during this ride one of these might fall out, I don't know. But they're not inexpensive, these things. I think for like the two lenses and the two insides, it cost me like 180 quid. So just trying to sort out some basic things like mirrors that you would normally kind of expect to just have them here on this bike is a bit expensive. Anyway, so got to sort those out, work out why they're not fastened. The whole bike needs completely, all the panels need respraying. At some point it's had a respray, but it's had a pretty bad one where the lacquer is just kind of almost peeling off in places. And in fact, where I've taped it there at the front, as you pull the tape off, it just peels the lacquer off, which it shouldn't do if it's done properly. So that's got to be done. A full respray on it. That's probably what, £1,000 nowadays to get something like that done, no doubt. Maybe even more. So today's job is tyres. I'll have to see if I can tidy this bit of the dash up here as well, because that looks a bit of a mess. I've just tried to sand off some of the filler. They've obviously added a switch in there, and rather than putting a back nut on the switch, they've sort of fillered on a metal plate onto the plastic. What the hell's going on here, by the way? Are we ever going to go? They've fillered on the metal plate. They've kind of tapped the metal plate to get the screw thread of the switch through, and then they've fillered it on, and they've made a mess of the filler, and then basically they've created a hole. You know, all they had to do if they wanted to put the switch there was drill a hole through it and put the plastic back nut on it. They've even put the plastic back nut of the switch into a little bag that I found of nuts and bolts inside the fuse box. So I don't know why they couldn't have just done a simple job like that rather than making such a mess of that dashboard. But anyway, they've done that, so I've got to come up with some sort of solution for that. But the whole bike is just like, you can just tell when somebody gets a bike and they don't give a S about it, and they just kind of let everything fall apart. It needs a lot of kind of TLC on top of probably a lot of pounds and pence in the coming weeks and months to get it right. So I've booked it in for a full service and check over to do everything with it on the 12th of May at Graham's Motorcycles in Bradford, who are guys who do these motorbikes, do these BMWs new and old, and he's going to give it a good check over, make sure everything's right. I mean, it's past its MOT, so technically from an MOT standard point of view it's okay, but I just want him to check things like throttle bodies, are they okay, the Hall end sensors, are they fine, you know, is there any like issue that's about to happen with it. Given the whole breakdown thing in my previous video, it's not something that you kind of want, is it? You want the reliability of a bike, not sort of be wondering, is it going to get me where I'm going? Is it going to break down? And then the tyres are, I think they're pretty old, these tyres on this bike. I was trying earlier to see if I could see a date on them. I could see something 2012. I mean, unless literally it has been on the same tyres and not ridden much. It has got a service history on it, which doesn't seem to suggest that it seems to suggest it's done a fair few miles. The tyres have still got loads of tread on them. And the Michelin Pilot Road 4s, which I don't think were they even out in 2010. Sorry, 2012 even. So I doubt the date I've found on them is actually the date. But anyway, they just feel a bit hard. I've never been a big fan of the Michelin Pilot Road tyres, if I'm honest. Not even, the profile of them is a bit sort of steep for these big bikes, and kind of want something with a bit of a shallower profile and a bit more grippy so you can do more in the corners with them. So I wanted to get, having researched it, ooh, what's he doing, this lad? I wanted to just people just don't even care, do they? It's like, Jesus. I wanted to get the Pirelli Angel GT2s because I'd seen quite a bit on YouTube about them and that they were pretty good tyres and all the rest of it. And on the last two sets of tyres I had on the Ducati Hypermotard SP and the Ducati Multistrada, both had Pirelli tyres on, which I had, in my view, made me feel a lot more confident on the road at leaning over, you know, certainly in the dry. I think the Multi had either the Trails or the Trail 2, Scorpion Trail 2s on them. And I think the Hypermotard had the Diablo Rosso tyres on, I think. But both perfectly good tyres. And on this one, these Angel GT2s are only available if I order them. And so I'm going with the Metzler, is it Geotech 01 SE, I think? I think that's what it's called. So I'm going with that, or those even. I'm getting them fitted this afternoon. I'm going to be arriving there, I think, about half an hour early by the look of this. Timing on the GPS, it's telling me I'll be there for about 3 o'clock, and my appointment time is 3:30, so I will have to oh, missed my gear, I see. It's an old bike, it's not an old man riding it. Well, I'm kind of getting there. So yes, new tyres today, new battery a few days ago, old but original exhaust a few days ago, mirror lenses, mirror inner housings, still not got the mirrors sorted out, got to sort that out, and then a full service coming up. So I bought the bike at a reasonable price. I paid £1,650 for it, so it wasn't majorly expensive for a 43,000 mile version of this bike. Most of them going for like 2,000 plus are in the 60,000s. But the condition of the bike kind of isn't that good and needs a lot of work doing to it to get it right. So I've put in probably, like, the exhaust was 220, the mirror stuff was 180, so we're like at 400 there. The battery was 100, so it's like 500 quid just gone in there pretty quickly. I'm also testing out this sound through the DJI Wireless Mic that I've got just in front of my chin on the bike, so not quite sure how that, and I forgot to turn the fast idle off on the bike as well, so I'll do that now. It's an older bike, it's got all these weird little things that, you know, when you're starting it from cold, it's a bit like a choke kind of thing there, fast idle lever that is very easy to forget to turn off. Of course, that just means probably you go through more fuel. But yeah, I've got all this stuff to sort out on it, try and get it in decent order. I mean, it'd be nice to have it as a keeper if I can get it into a really nice state, but we'll have to see if that is the case or not. I'm struggling to get it from first into second gear at the minute. I mean, I don't know how good the clutch is on it either, really. It's always a bit like you kind of sussing out all of these things all at the same time when you get a bike like this, and you're never quite sure what's right or what isn't. The good thing about this screen, which is like an electronic screen that you can kind of move up and down, if you hear that now, you'll probably hear loads of wind coming across, and if it's like that, I'm hoping that that wind isn't coming across, because I've got the visor open all the time. Just close, I mean, if I close the visor down, you're probably going to get a different sound profile. I don't know whether that's worse or it's better, but because that screen's up, I don't really have to have the visor fully down all the time, or at least I don't. Hopefully the mic is okay, but again, we will find that out when I'm watching this later on the computer. So if I put this through the service, that's going to be just best part of another 500 quid with all the stuff that they'll do on it. They'll do, as I understand it, they'll do all the drive oils for the rear drive and the transmission, and they'll do the engine oil and filter, spark plugs, air filter, fuel filter, and the belt on the alternator, and give it a good check around, hopefully, on all the torque settings and stuff on the various nuts and bolts. Right, I actually managed to get second gear that time. I was kind of almost expecting it not to go in, so I think to a degree on these old BMs, I do remember that that was always a bit of an issue, just going from first to second up through neutral. And you almost had to sort of preload the lever just so that it went in nicely, rather than sort of landing in neutral as it has done twice on this journey already. So I'm hoping today that these new tyres make a difference. And what I will do now is stop this video here and then come back to you when I've got the new tyres on. Might even do a bit of filming there, so see you in a bit.